Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Change Book International podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Harvick, and every Monday I bring you one of our new and exciting authors. And what we do this for is so you can get to know them. You can get a feel for what they do. You can reach out and connect. And today we have a real treat. We have Jordan Aspen with us, and I cannot wait to get to know this beautiful lady. So, Jordan, welcome today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing all right.
Okay. There's always little glitches in our day, and I know you're having a
Mhm.
glitch this morning. So thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. And what we want to do is we just want to get to know you. So can you tell us about yourself, the why of what you're doing in the why?
Yeah. So I'm Jordan Aspen. My husband is Paul Aspen. We were both entrepreneurs before we met. I've actually been an entrepreneur for over 20 years now and creating content online for over 20 years. We'll get into that, I'm sure. But when my husband and I met, we were both writers, but not published authors.
Okay.
And right around the time that we were really getting to know each other, we were in a writing group together. And I was feeling really convicted. Like I knew I was a really good writer and I would read books and think, well, I could do better than that, but I wasn't doing it. And so, yeah, I was a better writer, but I wasn't a better author. And in that sense, I was not a better writer. And so I pushed and I published my first book. Then we got married. I very rapidly published my second book, which this time was print as well. So I published my first one just digitally. And then I
Mhm.
published my first print book. And I would tease my husband because he is definitely a better and more prolific writer than I am, but he hadn't published anything, not even really online much. And like I said, I'd been publishing for years online already on my blog and such. So I then pushed him and helped him publish his first book. And shortly after we got married, we combined forces, combined our businesses, and we were really focused on writing then. And writing has been a really consistent through line because these 20 years of entrepreneurship, I have been all over the map. I started in the fashion industry
Oh, wow.
and now I'm in connection and platforms, and I've done public speaking almost full time. At one point, I was working for a nonprofit, and that's where I got a lot of my public speaking training, and was doing that very consistently. So I've been all over the place, lots of varied
Yeah.
experiences.
And that's awesome because you're so diverse. You can pivot at any moment, it sounds like, and that's wonderful. So tell me, what did it finally feel like to publish your first book?
It was kind of crazy that the whole process of publishing my first full length virtual work, an ebook, and then very quickly following that with a physical book was a very interesting process because the ebook was one thing to create something from start to finish. It was instructional in nature. I mentioned I was in the fashion industry. I realized that I didn't want to make a career making things for other people because there's really a ceiling there. How much you can charge, how much you can make there. It's not very scalable when you're doing something with your own hands. And I had a vision for not having to do the thing with my own hands while I was raising children. So back before I
Mm.
had children, before I was married, I had that vision of I need something scalable. And so I went to education and I could educate, and that's scalable. So I created this book based off of my most popular design that everybody wanted, everybody was making. While I was, After I designed it, I created a one-page instruction sheet of how to do the thing. And it was just very technical, very bare bones. And then I would run into people in my community that I didn't know who got that one sheet passed around, copied. I let people photocopy it. It was just a gift. And I
Mhm.
would run into people wearing my design,
Wow.
executed quite frankly very poorly. And I was
Okay.
so
Okay.
disappointed because they were not making the extrapolations necessary that I knew in my head because I was very, very trained. I was self-taught, but I would pore over textbooks, very, very self-taught, heavily self-taught and researched. And so all of this was in my head. So when I said go to point A from point A to point B, I knew all the little steps in between, but nobody else did. And so I recognized that and realized this is why education is the way it is. This is why people write whole books. This is why education is so detailed, because most people need that. And so I went back to the drawing board and wrote the entire book, very step by step. And because I couldn't help it, and I'm an artist and just the way I am, I wrote it all as a poem. And
Oh,
so
how
the book,
interesting. Wow.
so the book reads, it flows, and it's a beautiful read. It's so far from the technical one sheet. Like, I just swung to the other extreme and made this art piece with photos and explanations and case studies. Like, here's one way that you could design the skirt, and if you make just these slight adjustments, look how different it is. And I told the story of why you would make the design different, and all of this. And so the response was also very interesting. I didn't have testimonials with a photo of the person's design and creation saying, oh, this made it so easy to make this. I was getting testimonials from the seamstress's husband, who gifted her the book, peeked inside because he was curious, and ended up reading it cover to cover.
Oh, wow. That's a compliment. That's awesome.
Yes. So this is the kind of experience that I was getting. People were buying the book who didn't even sew and who had no intention of actually creating the design. They just loved hearing the beautiful story that I wove. And so my second book took a very different turn than I was expecting. I was expecting to be putting out more educational content. And instead I had people saying, do you write poetry? Can you write some poetry for us? Can you write a poetry book in a physical form? Because I don't want to read poetry off the screen. Like, this was great. I read it, but I want a physical book that I can take outside and read something beautiful. And so I did. I took all the poems that I had been writing and publishing on my blog for years, organized them, compiled them, and wrote and published that physical book. And one of my fans begged me. He reached out to me. He's a watercolor artist. Beautiful. Look him up. Eric Lynn on YouTube. Okay. Eric Lynn, Cafe Watercolor. Excellent YouTuber, amazing educator in that space. And he reached out to me and said, may I illustrate one of your poems, please? And I said, well, actually, I'm publishing them into a book. Would you do the cover? And so he read all my poems. He had read most of them before and created a concept and created this beautiful art piece for the cover of my book, My Heart Poured Out.
Wow, what a great story. So do you consider yourself a writer, a poet, a storyteller, or just you're all of the above?
I'm a creative entrepreneur. That's just what I am, because we've only gotten 10 years into my story at this point. And now we have another 10 years to cover. And I can sum that up by saying, like I said, met and married my husband, started doing freelance writing for other people, realizing that writing didn't come as easily to everyone else as it did to me. So I helped them tell the story of their work through case studies, creative case studies. Again, beautiful case studies that people want to read, not the technical type. So I did that for a while. And then while I was pregnant with my first baby, we were in a toxic mold environment and didn't realize it. And so we lived in that for 18 months before it clicked. And I realized that I was losing my health, mental, physical, emotional, like everything was coming crashing down. I was no longer able to write. I wasn't able to string a sentence together. I couldn't even finish a journal entry. And so I knew something was seriously wrong. Finally figured out it was toxic mold. And so that turned our world upside down. We lost everything. I took the baby and went to go live with my parents for a while because they knew the dangers of toxic mold and understood that we weren't just crazy. Whereas my in-laws didn't understand so much where we were living at first. But my husband had to stay there for work. So we lived separately for a while. Really crazy time. And I'm honestly still in recovery from that. That's a very long process of recovery to recover from toxins that literally take up residence in your body.
Yeah. Well, what do you do to rid yourself of the toxins? What's the protocol for that?
There are various protocols that are detoxifying, but I was very hesitant to do so because I very rapidly got pregnant again, and then again, and then again. And then we have 4 children, all back to back. And so I
Woo!
couldn't do any kind of heavy detox protocol because I was a little nervous about
Sure.
whether that would affect the babies and their nursing and gestation. So I've just taken a slow route of just taking care of my body and avoiding more mold, making sure that our living spaces are free of it, um, limiting my intake of certain foods that feed molds, or like corn, for example, even popcorn, all just simply has mold on it, as do peanuts. Most people are not actually allergic to
Oh,
peanuts.
no.
Yeah. Most
Yeah.
people who are allergic to peanuts are not actually allergic to the nut itself. They're allergic to the mold that just grows on it.
That is so
So
interesting.
most bodies can handle most can handle the aflatoxins that are on corn and peanuts and this sort of a thing. But for someone who's sensitive like I am, there's a genetic predisposition that apparently I have to be sensitive to it, and so it's just too much. So limiting that diet, taking care of my body in other ways of just like minimizing sugar, which is digestible but doesn't help with inflammation and fungal growth and this kind of a thing. So just stripping that away, um, and taking care of myself that way to
Yeah.
slowly build back.
Ooh, what a battle.
It's been quite the adventure.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can imagine. Now, tell us what you're doing now. What's
Yes.
I know you're one of our authors, and so
Mhm.
tell us why you chose the Change book. And then is your book out yet?
My
Your
book is not out yet.
Okay.
As far as the one that my chapter is in, the
Right.
change episode, I wanted to say I'm blanking on the word that you would use for
Yeah.
the the particular book, but
Oh,
yes, it's not out yet. But I was interested in the change book specifically. I've been invited to I don't even know how many compilation
right.
anthology type books, and the business model is intriguing, but I'm always looking for an opportunity that isn't just a chapter in a book, because I can do
Right.
that myself. I can be
Obviously.
that. Yes. I've even
Obvi-
considered doing so, being that cover author and reaching out to the authors that I know to each write a chapter. But there has to be something more to it, because a book is not an effective strategy in and of itself. Just getting into that book is going to do nothing for you if you don't do something else in addition to it, to promote the book, to connect with the other authors, to create community. Which actually brings me around to what I am doing right now. I don't know if you can see the find business community
Yes.
is kind of my tagline. Find business community. After being in so many different industries, freelance writing for people in different industries, having experience myself in various areas, I realized that there was a very common thread, and that all of us across industries needed to connect with each other in order to support each other. And I like to say that the way that I sum it up is cash flow keeps the business alive. It's that
Mhm.
lifeblood. You got to have it. But what keeps the business owner alive? And at one point, I was severely depressed and didn't know day from night, was just working on my book and eating when I felt hungry, if I felt hungry, sleeping when I felt sleepy, was not interacting with my community locally very much at all, processing a lot of stuff, and very depressed one morning at 2 a.m.,
Ooh.
like seriously depressed, considering not just throwing in the towel on the book, but on literally everything. But something made me crack open my laptop. And thank God I was a part of an internet chat community that was international. And there was somebody in Europe up and working
What?
on his or her business. I can't even remember who it was. But we talked, we chatted, and we didn't talk about the depression or what I was feeling or what I was considering. We talked about business and our vision and why we were doing what we were doing. And it reminded me why life was worth living. And so my life was literally saved. God saved my life that night through an internet chat room, somebody across the world whose name I can't even remember.
This is giving me goosebumps. It really is, because we know there's no coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so just that one phone call, or did you keep in touch, or how did
I kept
you
in touch. And part of the reason that I don't remember who it was is because the whole community was like this. The whole community in that chat room was connected and interconnected. And so I can't tell you who exactly it was. I have a whole bunch of names in Europe that it might have been, and it might have been somebody else too that I don't even remember. I have met a bunch of these people in person. Even the Europeans came over to Austin for a big conference that we had. That was a funny story because they were like, oh, we're coming to Texas. Everybody in the US, tell us where you are so we can come and visit you when we do a tour. And we go, drop a picture in the chat of Europe overlaid over Texas. Like, don't even try to meet anybody who's not coming to the conference, guys. You're not going to do a road trip across the United States.
That is so funny.
But
And
yeah, we all convened.
It's interesting that you talk about that, because we have our change community, and Jim Lutz is always talking about the importance of connection, of community, of collaboration. And so you're pretty much just reinforcing what he talks about, aren't you?
Yes. And that was part of why I chose to be a part of the Change book, is literally for access to the community, for the fact that now I'm in touch with Jim Lutz and Jim Britt, for the fact that that's just one thing, right?
How amazing is that, right? I know. The best two guys I've ever met, that I think I've met a lot of people, but these two truly want us to win at life, at writing, at making money, at whatever we want. They are there to, give us that nudge that we need.
Yes. And that on-demand factor, because I've been a part of masterminds that have their set group calls, and that's really the only time that you access even each other. Yeah, maybe there's a Facebook group, but we all know how Facebook groups can go, right? They go flat if nobody is specifically engaging in a strategic way. So I've been a part of those. But the fact that this was more on demand, I have Jim's phone number. I got to go hang out with him in person. Like,
did you go to his San Diego
event? No, I went to Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix. Okay.
His pilot event in Phoenix is where we met up. I happened to be in Arizona visiting family.
Oh, how
and I heard about it, and it fit, because I was looking at, when can we get out to California? When can we get out to California? And then click, it worked. And we were there that weekend. And so I'm like, okay, bye guys. I left the kids with the grandparents and zipped over to the deep dive and spent the day there.
Wow. Again, no coincidences, right?
Yep.
That's amazing. What did you learn, or what did you speak at that?
No, I did not. Okay. I didn't hear about it in advance of enough time and everything. Yeah.
Did just being in that group of people and being around Jim and his energy that he brings, tell me what that was like.
The deep dive is amazing, the way that it's formatted, because it's just big enough without being too big. I was able to meet just about everybody in the room and interact with them throughout the day and into the evening, with the extended networking time for those who were serious and stuck around. That was really nice too, the way that's formatted, because when you show up at the extra networking, that's when the real conversations are going on, the real connections, the real collaborations. And I can tell you, just from the afterwards networking time, we have discussions of 3, maybe 4 different collaborations in the works. And I'm not talking, oh, I'll be on your podcast. That's a great collaboration. But I'm talking about like putting together an event. You bring the audience, I'll bring the speakers, we'll bring our networks together. That level, like in person, from Colorado and Florida and Texas. This is a far-reaching deal. It wasn't just Phoenix people. It was people who traveled in and have then their networks to connect with. And so connecting with so-and-so, and then hearing over here, oh, you have this piece of the puzzle. We can actually make the event happen. We can make the collaboration come together because each of us brings something different to the table, and we're literally sitting at a table and can discuss it right here. It's so powerful. I don't even know how to express to people who only hang out in Facebook groups what a difference it is to get in the room, sit down, grab a drink, grab a snack, and talk.
It is amazing, and that's what you need. And I just love the fact that you were eye to eye. You can talk all you want, but when you really meet someone in person, you get a feel for their voice inflection, their body language, and to me that's so important. And of course Jim is the master of all of that. So, and I was so bummed too, because I lived in Arizona for 27 years, and it's like, oh, how could he do this to me? But I just couldn't make it out that time. But you're convincing me I definitely need to go to one.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. Make a whole vacation of it, especially make the vacation afterwards so that you can actually take the time, like make it a working vacation, actually take the time to implement things that you learned, call up those people, text them that you met, and continue those collaborative conversations. Because too often that's what happens, right? We get really excited. We network, we meet somebody face to face, we make that eye contact, we say, oh, we've got this great idea, and then it falls flat. Because fortune is in the follow-up, and the follow-up is where we fall.
And how important is follow-up?
Absolutely vital. So vital that my business currently completely centers around it. That's what I do. I help people to maintain that eye contact in the room as much as possible while still capturing the digital information, the digital connection, so that you can stay in touch afterwards and keep up those best intentions.
Wonderful. And are business cards kind of antiquated now? Because you talk about digital. Tell me if people should be carrying business cards.
Well, you tell me. When is the last time that you actually went through your business card collection?
Oh, gosh. I couldn't tell you.
Exactly.
I couldn't tell you. And I remember a time when they were you'd go in a room and you'd collect 50, and it was overwhelm, because oftentimes there was no a picture attached. There was just this business information. And so I got to a point where I was at least putting my photo on my business card, because someone could place the name and the face, hopefully.
Yes. Yep. But I'm all about the business of connection. And when I was packing for an event a couple of months ago, I pulled out a blazer I hadn't worn in a while, and the pocket was full of business cards.
Oh, no way.
It took me going through halfway through the stack before I recognized something, not even recognized the actual person or business, but just figured out where in the world I collected these from. What event was it? Halfway through the stack, I finally figured it out. It was an event from 2 years prior.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And that's someone who's passionate about connection. So the average person is never looking at your business card again. But the same thing is happening with digital connection. We have Dot and Popple and all of these different digital business cards. We tap each other's phones and or scan the QR code. And we end up being in person and looking at our phone and going, okay, scroll. How do I save this contact? And then we have no way on our phones to sort by recent. So if you don't remember their name, you can't look them up. So yeah, you've got their contact stored in your phone. Big deal.
Okay.
You can't find it.
So many things to consider, isn't there? A lot. Absolutely a lot. Well, I know your book isn't out yet, your chapter book, but can you give us just a hint of what we're going to read about when it finally is available?
Well, what I can tell you is it's definitely going to be about connecting and staying connected.
Okay.
That's the whole story. Everything that I do centers back on that, the importance of connection and how to actually follow through on those best intentions. I can't help but give how-tos. They say when you give away free content or write in a book or something like this, that you're supposed to give away the what and then make them come to you and pay for the how. And I go into ChatGPT and I have this editor trained, and every single time I'm like, you're telling him how to do it. Like, well, yeah, I'm a teacher and I'm going to leave it. So I can tell you that as well, that even if ChatGPT and my editors try to edit it out, you will get practical because I can't help it.
That, that's wonderful though. And that's just who you are, right?
It is.
That's who you are. And that's wonderful to be that way. So I know we're getting to the end of our chat here, which is amazing because this has just flown by. But for our audience, for anybody watching, for someone who's going to watch it later, give us like a golden nugget to take with us. I know that's a hard one
There's
because
so much.
You know a lot.
You got to sum it up. Don't be afraid to reach out. That's the biggest golden nugget because you've got all kinds of connections and it is not too late to start and restart a relationship. You've got that person who would be an amazing collaborator. You just haven't been in touch for so long that it's awkward. Like, how do you start that conversation? Well, they're probably wondering the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not they remember you, it's with you or it's with somebody else. And so make that awkward outreach, the thinking of you message, the, hey, I had this random idea. I would love to run it by you message, whatever it is. Don't go and just straight pitch. We know this, right? Like, don't just go into the DMs and be like, hey, I've got a new offer and I thought of you. Here's the link. That's not relational. But that person that's been on your mind, reach out to them as a friend, as an old friend, and just rekindle that connection. Refer back, like if you need a prompt, refer back to where you met. You remember that Jim Lutz event a few months ago where we met and like we were hanging out. I was the one with the red hair. I was thinking of you.
I love that.
How are you doing? What have you been up to?
What a compliment for that person that you're reaching out. I remembered you, and it's we sometimes shut ourselves down to that. Oh, they won't remember me. Oh, that they would have gotten a hold of me. We just push it aside when in fact you have to be proactive with these things. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I, for one, cannot wait to read your chapter in the book. And this has been an absolutely fascinating 30 minutes. And thank you for showing up. I know you had some challenges this morning, and I hope everything goes well. But for our audience out there, I would like I have some links in her bio. I would love for you to connect with her. You are just a wealth of information. You really are. And it seems like you're making it sound so easy. Is it easy?
Some parts are, and the easy parts are going to be different for everybody.
Okay. All right. Well, you've given me a lot of ideas. I'm keep glancing at that stack of cards that I haven't done anything with. So I want to thank you for coming on today. I want to thank you for this wonderful information. And hopefully someday I'll get to network with you in person. That would be wonderful. So for everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us. Aspen, Jordan Aspen, that's who you want to look up. She's amazing. And go find her. She will be able to lead you to greatness. So thank you, everyone. Take care, and I will see you next Monday.